And if you don't have your gold in a period of instability like we are now, you don't really own it. And I think that's what India is seeing. And I wouldn't be surprised that by the end of this year, we see that India has moved all its gold home, and other countries too. Saturday, June 1st, 2024, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. There's an old saying, whoever holds the gold makes the rules. And I think the bullion banks of the City of London and New York are being challenged right now. And who are the challengers? Well, I think it's not just Russia and China, but also India. We just saw yesterday that India moved 100 metric tons of gold from the Bank of England to its domestic vaults. So it still has 400 metric tons abroad. I'm not sure how much they have with the Bank of England. And why is that important? 100 metric tons doesn't seem to be a lot. Well, it's important because there's something called leasing, gold leasing. And unlike when you lease a car and you take delivery of the car and you drive it for 3 years or more and then give the car back and close the lease, usually in a gold or even silver lease, there's no delivery. So the bullion banks in the City of London, the central banks, who do a lot of their dirty work, I would say, via the Bank for International Settlements in Basel, they will lease a lot more gold than they really have. But the only danger in that is that the people who hold the gold with the Bank of England, and there is quite a bit of gold held at the Bank of England, and this is nothing to do with the UK gold, but the fact that London has been the center for bullion dealing for centuries. And as you can see here, the holdings of gold at the Bank of England have fallen about 10% since the beginning of 2022. And that's not surprising because we're seeing a lot of gold buying from the non-Western countries like the BRICS and Global South countries. Not just last year, but in 2022, we saw record buying ever since the Bretton Woods system was created just around the end of the Second World War. So as you can see here, Bank of England still holds 4.7 thousand tons, or around 166.8 million troy ounces. But that has gone down from quite a bit. Before 2022, it held around 5,200 tons. And I would say a lot of that gold has gone east. And Bank of England is not a member of the LBMA, but it works closely with the LBMA, as you can see here. This is from their website. You can pause the video here and read what they say. They say they're not involved, they're not members of the LBMA, but I would argue that the Bank for International Settlements does a lot of the trading for the Bank of England from Basel, because over in Basel, the Bank for International Settlements doesn't operate within Swiss law or rules. It's a supranational entity, so they can do whatever they want. And why is gold so important? Well, because ever since 1932 and 1933 as well, we saw Britain go off the gold exchange standard in 31, and then it created what's called the exchange equalization account in 1932. And you can see here from the government's website, it says the EEA is the account that holds the UK's reserves of gold, foreign currencies, and IMF special drawing rights. And it says the EEA was established in 1932 to provide a fund which could be used for checking undue fluctuations in the exchange value of sterling. Well, that's a euphemism, of course, for manipulation and interference, not just in the currency market, in sterling, but also in gold, in foreign currencies. And that's why gold is still so important, because leaving the gold exchange standard in 31 basically said that sterling was bust, right? The UK defaulted. That's what they did. The US, of course, defaulted a couple of years later in 1933. Roosevelt abolished the gold standard in the US. And in 1934, of course, created the Exchange Stabilization Fund, which does the same thing for the dollar. So why is gold so important? Well, because the dollar, sterling, and all the other fiat currencies, they are a derivative of gold, because gold has always been money. When they went bust and went off gold, they had to pretend that their currency were strong. And they've convinced a lot of countries to keep their gold at the Bank of England. And how do they do that? Well, they promise them that they will lease them out and give them an income in fiat currency. But I think people are waking up to it, especially now that the Global South and the BRICS are seeing that the US, the EU, and the UK, they can just freeze all their foreign reserves, and that includes gold. And I think that's one of the reasons why India is repatriating its gold. And 100 tons might not sound a lot, but I think the fact that they did it just in the last few months is very significant, because back in 2013, as you can see here, the Germans wanted to repatriate a lot of their gold from abroad to Germany. And yes, they ended up repatriating 674 tons, roughly half from New York and half from Paris. But it took them 4 years to repatriate that amount, which seems like a long time. If India can repatriate 100 tons in a few months from London to India, why couldn't they do it a lot quicker? Well, because a lot of this gold that the New York Fed or the Bank of England holds from these foreign central banks and organizations, they lease it out to the bullion banks. So how does that work? Well, let's say gold is breaching some key technical levels. Well, JP Morgan will go to the BIS, or the BIS will go to JP Morgan and say, sell 10,000 tons of gold. And it will drive the paper price down 50, $100. And then the next day they just close it out and there's no delivery. So that's how they do it. But the Achilles heel of this leasing scam, because we wouldn't be able to ourselves lend things that we don't have. You know, if I have a bottle of water here, I can't lend 10 of these out. I can only lend this one. But the central bankers and the bullion banks are above the law, and they can do whatever they want. But yeah, the Achilles heel is that banks like the RBI, the Reserve Bank of India, and others start taking their physical gold out of London and New York. And I think London is a lot more important, because in London, the gold market is not even, how can I say, regulated by the Bank of England. So they can hypothecate or leverage as many times as they want. In New York, it's a little different. It's only 3 times. So, and that's why it took so long for the Bundesbank to repatriate its gold, because they had to, they knew that if they took everything out all at once, the gold price would explode. But hopefully countries like India and others are realizing that their real money has been used by other people to basically manipulate these people currencies to make sterling, dollar, and the euro look a lot better. And that's detrimental actually to the rupee and other currencies. And why haven't they woken up before to this? Well, because I think it's a very arcane and complicated for the layman, this kind of market. And the bankers in India and London, they're in charge. And a lot of the bureaucrats and politicians, they don't know about this, but I think people are learning about it. And there was a guy back in 2011 who did the same thing. Hugo Chavez, the president of Venezuela, he repatriated 99 tons from the Bank of England in the summer of 2011. He got the gold by November, so 100 tons. It didn't take that long. It didn't take 4 years. And I think it was one of the reasons why gold went up from like around 1,200, 1,100 at the tail end of 2010 to around 1,900 by the summer of 2011. Yes, because Hugo Chavez caught the bullion banks and the central banks by surprise. He wanted the physical, and he wanted more. They took 99 tons from the Bank of England, and they had a lot more. I'm not sure if they were able to take more out. But anyway, what happened to Hugo Chavez? Well, he died of a very bad disease a couple of years later. I'm not like insinuating anything here, but another leader that tried to create a gold system and use physical gold as a currency was Muammar Gaddafi. Look what happened to him. Am I saying something's going to happen to Indian politicians? No, because I think this is India now is not a lone wolf. The whole of the global south is moving towards draining their gold out of the West, because they see that it's being used for their own detriment. Yes, they get a measly lease rate, probably paid in dollars or sterling in fiat. And the bullion banks, the Fed, the Bank of England, they get to like manipulate the value of their currencies to make them look a lot stronger than they are. And yeah, and I think that's what's happening. I think that's why that is significant. And I think that's why you need to keep an eye on this Bank of England chart. And I'm going to put a link to this chart below in the description. And they've got some more data going back to around 2013. Unfortunately, they don't have data going further back. So yeah, this is not UK gold. This is gold that they hold for foreign institutions like central banks, probably IMF, probably the BIS. Well, actually, the BIS is interesting. And if you don't believe me, you can get this book here, The Tower of Basel by Adam Libor. What the BIS does, it has its own accounts at the Bank of England where they hold gold. And the Bank of England has its own accounts with the BIS in Basel, so they can mask everything. The Bank of England can deny that they do anything in the bullion market, well, because the BIS does it for them from Switzerland, from Basel. And as I said, the BIS is like a supranational entity. It's like a state, a country. It doesn't follow any commercial rules or laws from Switzerland. I think the only thing that the people who work there are liable to is criminal law in Switzerland if they do something wrong outside the bank. But the central bankers, Jay Powell and others, they go there every 2 months for really nice stay there, nice lunch and dinners with the best wine. And I think that's why this is so significant, the fact that India is starting to move its gold out of the Bank of England. And I know that Australia, the Reserve Bank of Australia, has about 80 tons And I think there are a lot of Australians who want that gold to go back to Australia. The other reason I would say, and I think I've said it already, is that with the world getting so crazy, and we've seen what's happening in the United States politically vis-a-vis Trump. We're seeing what's happening politically here in the UK and everywhere around the West. We're seeing how unstable our financial systems, how out of control the debt is. We're seeing how geopolitically we are almost at the doorstep of a major war against Russia. Gold becomes really important. And if you don't have your gold in a period of instability like we are now, you don't really own it. And I think that's what India is seeing. And I wouldn't be surprised that by the end of this year, we see that India has moved all its gold home, and other countries too. They should know that, they should learn that you can't really trust the Bank of England and the Fed. They're using your gold to basically embellish their currencies. Why not take your gold and support your currencies, right? Why keep it at the Bank of England? It's just really doesn't make any sense. The only problem I see here, though, it might be too late. If things kick off, Bank of England, New York Fed, they'll put a freeze on those accounts, and your gold will probably never be seen again. And that's why we should look at gold and silver like that too, as individuals, that you have to have the real physical gold and silver. Mining company speculation, stocks, something different. You might want to do some of that, but with a small percentage, I would say, of your holdings. It depends on the individual, right? And yeah, with that in mind, make sure you check out my description of my video. There are ways there that you can help the channel, and there are ways there as well that you can access or contact bullion dealers that I've been working with for years that I trust. And of course, I'm not saying you should use them, but you could consider using them to help the channel. And if not, just try to find the most reputable one that's been in business for a long time, just like my affiliates have. So there you go. I think these are exciting times, and we're going to keep an eye on things, especially the bullion market, and also how much gold is flowing out of the Bank of England. I think that's highly significant. And as I said, it's the Achilles heel for the paper game in London and New York. So with that, I'm going to wish you all a very good day. Take care. Bye.